swear I can't get any luck these days at all. Man, seriously, every time I make a mistake, the captain decides he's gonna ship me off to some weird place. I swear, you make one mistake and accidentally shoot your partner in the dick, and he sends you to a space prison. I mean, seriously. Now, where am I even supposed to go around here? I mean, this place is huge. Why they got a prison built on another planet? That makes no sense. Where is everybody? Seriously. This is Officer Redenbacher. I'm reporting for service. I've been sent here by my captain. Hello, is anybody there? Hello? Please respond. Is anybody here? This is Officer Redenbacher. I'm here to do my job. I swear, every time I get sent somewhere, there's nobody here. What's everybody on a damn union break? Everywhere I go. Oh, look, there's somebody now, at least. Oh, hey, a woman. Excuse me, ma'am. Do you know where the admissions room is? Oh, well, thank you very much. How kindly. Finally, somebody on this damn planet who's nice that I can trust. Man, damn, this place is weird. Hey, what you doing? What you doing? Hey, bitch, don't stab me in the dick.
Hello everybody, it's me Nate, aka Devil Dog, and I'm back with another game review. This time I'm reviewing the Callisto Protocol. That's right, it's finally here folks. And before I get into my non-biased review and my personal opinions of this title, I gotta get the normal jargon out of the way. It was developed by Striking Distance Studios, published by Crafton, and was released on December 2nd of 2022 on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and Windows. And it is considered a spiritual successor to the Dead Space series. As most people know this by now, the original creator of the Dead Space series that EA destroyed and abolished the company, he went on to form Striking Distance Studios, and this is their first game that they made. And they were teamed up with the same people that helped with PUBG. So at first they actually had some tie-ins to PUBG, but as the story grew and got bigger, it became its own thing on its own. So it still has some ties to PUBG, oddly enough, but other than that, it's its own thing, and it is technically a spiritual successor to the Dead Space series. Now, what exactly is this in layman's terms without ruining the overall plot? Because, boy, it's an interesting one. You play as a pilot known as Jacob, and after you have a tragic accident crashing in your spaceship back on the planet of Callisto, you get thrown in and become an inmate of the Black Iron Prison, and along the way, through all the deep dives and all the twists and turns, as you progress deeper into the story of the shocking reason behind what the Callisto Protocol is, in your roughly 10 plus hour long adventure, you meet up with people and you go around and you fight a bunch of enemies and go through dark, spooky corridors and fight enemies and go down spooky, dark corridors and other things like that. Now, as for gameplay, it's not bad. It is played from the third-person view, as you can see from the footage, where you can control your character, you can crawl, you can climb over stuff. As for the mechanics, you do have different weapons you can fight with. You get your standard-issue pistols, your shotguns, rifles, stuff like that. No futuristic weapons like in Dead Space, which is honestly a big problem I have right from the start with this game. This is a new IP, and it does show. You know, you have a new game studio making a new IP, and I was kind of hoping that maybe, just maybe, they would have done something a little bit better with the weapons. But I'm afraid to say this game, though you do get like guns and stuff, it seems to be heavily motivated towards melee attacks with melee weapons and stuff like that. Like it's got this really odd mechanic, which I kind of think is rather clunky in it, where when an enemy will come up and try to attack you, you have to press the stick in the opposite direction to dodge out of the way, and after a couple dodges, they'll leave the enemy open that you can hit them with your weapons. Now, don't get me wrong, you can use your pistols and stuff like that to shoot like arms and legs off of the enemies, and it will make them harder to kill, but there's been certain instances where you blow a head clean off an enemy and they still keep coming after you. So honestly, there's something like that you have to remember. This kind of reminds me of what was that? The Suffering meets The Thing. That to me is what the flavor of this game is. You got the prison setting that it harkens back to me of The Suffering, but nowhere near as disturbing as The Suffering. And monsters remind me of little mini Cthulhu Thing versions of these enemies. Honestly, hands down, I do like the art style of the game, and the graphics are hands down the best part of this game. And no doubt about it. Make sure to play this game with a headset on for the great sound effects. The PS5 version has the feedback through your controller, so you get some nice little feedback there. And honestly, like I said, the graphics hands down it blows it out of the park. If this game was based off of graphics, it'd be a 10 out of 10 right out of the gate. Honestly, just on that alone. But there's been many games in the pantheon of time that has proven graphics don't make a good game. And a lot of people have actually been saying that this game has some issues with it. The fact that, first of all, the embargo wasn't lifted until like the day before the launch of the game, which is generally a pretty big red flag. It can mean one of two things. One, the game basically isn't good at all, and they didn't want people to let the information out in terms of it hurting sales. Or the exact opposite. It was really good and they didn't want people knowing about certain things. Honestly, I am in the middle ground with this game. It plays all right. The level designs are a bit on the corridor festation style. It's very linear. There's very few parts where it does branch out. It does allow you a certain choice here or there, like go to a different area, fight a different enemy, and stuff like that. But most of it is very linear and leads you on the path through this 10-hour adventure. And honestly, other than the graphics and the sound and the lighting, that is really the best part of this game, because honestly, the gameplay is really, really shallow. I hate to say it, because I pushed this game to all my friends, because don't get me wrong, while this does come off as not being that great of a game, and I'll explain why, I still want this company to do good enough and sell enough copies in order to make a sequel. Because this reminds me of what happened with Days Gone, if you remember that game. Had a great premise, and they spent most of the time building the game world, the game engine, the characters, and all that, and it didn't leave them enough time to really build a great game. But the actual bones to the structure were great. Once again, this is a good example of that. The bones of the structure of this game is really, really good and sound and well built. It's just that the muscles, the meat attached to it is kind of shallow. The mechanics of fighting, it gets boring very fast. It's like dodge, dodge, hit, dodge, dodge, hit, shoot from a distance. You have enemies attack you, and you have to make sure to run from them and stuff like that. So they'll throw a lot of enemies at you, and it can be kind of stressful, but honestly, it's really kind of more annoying than it is nerve-wracking. Honestly, the gameplay is where this is the most shallow, followed by the game level design, and it just shows the fact that this is a new development team that made this, and it is obvious that this game was rushed to market. That's another reason why the embargo wasn't lifted until right before launch, is because they knew that this game should have been baked for another year. Okay, they should have added more to it, and they should have tweaked it. It needed more. It needed more because the premise is there. It's sound. It's great, but it's not really scary. It's not really scary. It's unnerving. It looks neat, but there's hardly any enemy character designs that are different. Most all the enemies look about the same. You might have some later on that are like the double whammies, as I call them, double whammy, where they're splitting apart. But for the most part, there's very little in terms of enemy designs, very little in terms of weapons. I mean, yes, you can upgrade them by going to the 3D printer thing and upgrade your weapons, and it does make you feel stronger and makes it easier to progress through the game and beat the enemies. But it's just, you can tell this game was rushed to market because they wanted to get it out before EA's Dead Space remake comes out next year. You can tell that's what they wanted. They wanted to get it in before the end of the fiscal year as well to help their new business. And I can understand that. And a lot of people are comparing this to the launch of Cyberpunk. And that's just ridiculous, okay? This actually plays pretty decent on a PS5. I don't know about a PS4, and I have heard the PC version is kind of a joke. But honestly, I don't see it as being completely broken and non-functioning like Cyberpunk was. And this honestly screams the fact that it was a new development team. They didn't have enough time to actually make the game right, and they wanted to get it out because they're going to be adding stuff along the way, including a new Game Plus and new death animations, which they claim are not actually in the game code. But that's one thing I have to ask you PC players out there. It's only going to be a matter of time before someone on the PC version is going to dive deep into the coding, and they'll be able to see if that's true or not, if there's any sort of code in the game where they have locked stuff out or if they haven't added it in. The development team claims that there's a lot of content they're currently designing that they haven't even built yet to add to the game in the future for their season pass. And while that's great and everything, as long as they're being honest, I would hate for somebody to find out in the game's code and like, oh look, it's in here, it's just locked behind a paywall or something. That would really kind of tick me off, because honestly, this is a full price game of $70 for the PS5 version, $60 for the PS4 version, and it's only 10 hours long, and it's really not that scary. The only really good things I have to say about this is the graphics are bar none a showstopper. The graphics are phenomenal, and the gore and animation of the gore is top tier. That hands down is so cool because the game is so gory that there's been a lot of countries that have banned it outright because it's just too gory, and they refuse to tone down on the gore, which I do appreciate. Now, if just the gameplay would match the quality of the graphics and the gore, but in this case, I have to say it does not. My final thoughts of the Callisto Protocol. If I were to rate this game a 1 out of 10, I would have to give this about a 6 to a 6.5 out of 10. The reason why is the game is actually fundamentally playable. It looks phenomenal. The game world is neat, even though a lot of the areas look very similar. And they should have made more variety in the terms of the graphics of each area. Some stand out, but most of them are all corridors with junk everywhere. And don't get me wrong, while it looks great, it just doesn't play that well. Fighting the same 4 enemies over and over again with the duck, dodge, attack mechanic and trying to hoard your weapons ammo, it just, to me, isn't fun and got boring really fast. And it just doesn't have any set-piece moments that really stood out to me, like the worm tentacle thing from the first Dead Space. And you combine that all, and I think the main problem is this company, everybody was saying this is a spiritual successor to Dead Space, so I think everybody got their hopes up, and this game company, don't get me wrong, they didn't build a stinker game. It's not terrible. It is playable. It's not that bad. I've played way worse. It looks visually fantastic. The audio is fantastic. The lighting's great. And the gore is phenomenal. It's just the level designs needed to be a little bit better, a little bit more open, a little bit more well thought out. They should have taken more design to work on the clunky mechanics of the fighting. I don't like this dodging and attacking thing. It just gets too repetitious and boring too fast. The guns are just uninteresting. They're not exciting enough, because I can remember all the Dead Space guns of all the little special little tricks that they would do to help you fight the necromorphs. And in the end, the enemies, the monsters, while they do look great, aren't as menacing and disturbing as the necromorphs from the original Dead Space. And in the end, that's why I have to say that this is like a 6 out of a 10 in my book. It's definitely worth playing. It is not a stinker game. It's not a garbage game. But I don't think it's worth it at the full price. I do think that Striking Distance Studios hopefully will sell enough copies of this so they can end up getting the money and being able to bankroll and work and make a sequel that actually could be what this game deserves. But in the end, I would have to say that this, while isn't bad in any way, to me it just came off as just ho-hum, just middle of the barrel. And honestly, I give them a little bit more credit than most people just because this is a new game. The new studio and their first new game, you got to expect them to have some issues with it. And for it to be built this fairly decent from the start, I would love to see what they could possibly do with a sequel. Honestly, that's where they could really blow it out of the water, but I don't think this one is quite up to par with what people were expecting. And in the end, I just still have to say pass or wait until there's a discount sale. This was me, Nate, aka Devil Dog. I want to thank each and every single one of you for watching this video. Please leave in the comments below if you agree with what I say or if you disagree. Was there anything I missed out on explaining this game? And what are your personal thoughts? Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video. And remember, here at Devil Dog Gaming, we always end our videos by saying, have fun, play hard, and remember, people, the devil is in the details. Peace out until next time.